Running a marathon can be a transformative experience. I strongly encourage everyone to tackle that challenge. Any ordinary person willing to put in the work to train and prepare can accomplish this monumental feat. But I will admit, you have to be a bit extraordinary to do it under 3 hours. And you have to be even more extraordinary to pull that off on back-to-back days. But Orinthal Striggles is extraordinary. Training with Kenyan runners and coaching incredibly talented Americans like Shawanna White, you can find Coach Striggles any given weekend on a marathon podium near you. He and his crew travel almost every weekend, bouncing from race to race, racking up records and awards. But not just a world-class runner, Orinthal has used his talents to help others attempt to accomplish some pretty lofty goals as well. His passion for the sport started at an early age, and through overcoming some tragic mistakes along the way, Coach Striggles has now been able to help athletes on 2 continents realize their dreams and potential. Orinthal has served as a mentor to many. His example, both in his full-time role as counselor and especially as father, show all of us how we can overcome adversity and dedicate ourselves to what is truly important. We all make mistakes, but it's how we choose to react to those mistakes that define our character. And Coach Striggles is definitely a character. Hear all about the journey of this running man in my conversation with Coach Orinthal Striggles. Tell me why you have all the cards there.
So I got into the habit of buying and selling. Buying has been going well, but the selling has not been. So
Orinthal's used car lot.
yeah, I'm all about trying things from time to time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's great. Where do you find your deals?
GovDeals.com.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
There's government repo type things or whatever, or like tax.
Actually, government. Some are repos, but most are government vehicles that were used for some governmental
Nice.
purpose,
Cool.
whether state, local. My daughter, Mariah, she's talking about running. She's thinking next year in high school she'll join the track and cross-country teams.
Nice.
Oren has a lot of talent. He would come with me to the races, and he'll get in the kid fun runs,
Oh yeah.
and he would win most of them. If
Yeah.
not, he would always be in the top 3. But
Yeah.
he has a running mind because he would always be tactful with how he would run.
He's got
you
the
know.
gift.
He likes, yeah, he
Yeah.
does. He does.
Yeah.
I just, if they use it, they use it. If not,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well.
And at this stage, you just let them figure
Yeah.
it out. Like
Yeah.
as soon as you try to push them in one direction, that's when they go the other
Yes,
way. And then
right,
it gets, yeah.
right.
Well, it's funny because like my parents were both pretty athletic and they got into triathlon and they ran marathons when we were all growing up. I just completely rebelled. I was like, nah, I'm good. So like by the time I got to high school, I had given up any running. I'd given up on track. I was just out there having a good time.
Yeah.
But then like once I hit like, later on in life and had matured and not been quite so obnoxious all the time, it was
Well,
like those seeds have been planted, man.
Right. Well, I know it saved me. I've always wanted to be athletic because my dad was very, very athletic, and
What was his background? What did he do?
He was a very good basketball player.
Nice.
And so I would see his trophies along with the trophies of his siblings, and I was like, man, I love those. I want one or some myself one day. And so I found out, hey, be an athlete, you have an opportunity to win some. Now I have more than enough.
Now you need a whole mantle to hold all the hardware and everything that you guys are coming home with all this every weekend, man. That's great. Well, let's roll right into it, man. This is the Extraordinary Podcast, and my guest today is Orinthal Striggles.
Yes.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Where are we at?
We're in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come to visit you guys in your home. This is a real treat to be with some world-class athletes, man, some high-quality runners. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. You have so many fascinating aspects of what you do and what you're talented at. So I guess we should kind of just start right at the very beginning. What got you started with the running?
Well, I discovered I could run one day when my brother wanted to get me in trouble because my grandmother would spank us and hard. And so it was something to laugh about because he came outside, they started chasing me to catch me, and I realized I'm running and I'm not getting tired, but he is. I can run for a long time. And from there, I was about 5 or 6 years old at the time, and in the country where I grew up in Girard, Georgia.
Yeah, you grew up in South Georgia, right?
That's
yeah,
right.
Out in the country.
And so at that time, I discovered, hey, I have something. And so from there, I just continued.
So you knew early on.
Right.
Kind of, yeah. It's like I don't have to be fast. I just got to be faster than you.
Right.
Keep from getting that whooping.
There you go.
So then you started doing cross country and track in high school?
Actually, in the middle school, 8th grade.
No kidding. So you got started right out the get-go.
Coach, that's right. Middle school coach noticed me running a long time, playing soccer. He said, I need you to be my distance runner. And from there, I started running the mile, 2 mile throughout middle school, high school. And my last 2 years of high school, I was fortunate enough to have a coach take me to the cross-country meets because we didn't have a cross-country team. But I learned about cross-country, never knew what it was.
That's a different ball of wax, right? Yeah.
I learned about it from other rivals at different neighboring schools. And so they would always tell me, you should run cross country. And I'm thinking, what in the world is that? Well, I found out what it was, and I loved it. You know, very first race, I was in the lead, almost won, but I ran, of course, with about 200 meters to go. And that was the region championships. Yeah, but from there, I still made it to the state meet. And
still had that road runner mentality of going out like a ball of flames, man. Hit the ground running. That's great. And then so from there, from high school, then you went to Benedict College?
Right.
And competed there.
Right, that's right. After a few bumps in the road, I found my way at Benedict College. I had already flunked out of college, not knowing what I was going to do with my life.
Before getting to Benedict.
That's right.
Do you mind telling me a little bit about that?
All right. So the one school that recruited me was Georgia Southern University, a Division I school in South Georgia, Southeast Georgia.
Not too terribly far from you.
Right. And so I had no clue as to why is the coach not interested in me anymore. I was just ignorant of a lot of things that I try my hardest to teach others now, which was I didn't even know I had to take an SAT to get into college. Therefore, I did not know that that was required of the NCAA to be eligible to run. So that and a lot of other things that I was oblivious of led me to making a lot of horrible decisions in my life prior to getting to Benedict.
Okay.
So I graduated from high school in 94. I did attend Georgia Southern, but wasn't running. 94, 95, flunked out of college, and then found my way at Benedict because my ex-wife was from Columbia, and I remembered after not knowing what I was going to do with my life thinking, well, my brother's ex-girlfriend went to Benedict. Let me give it a try. Benedict is a small, historically black college located here in Columbia, Division II school now, NCAA Division II, and I had an opportunity to run cross-country and track there. And from the minute I walked onto the team, life for me sort of changed because I was awarded a full scholarship from day one.
Kind of got you on track.
Right.
Got you on a whole new path.
Right.
And now, and let's talk too. There was an interesting aspect of while you were at Benedict College. When you were first there, it was under the NAIA. NAIA.
Right. That's right. We were NAIA. My first year of running cross country and track. We were unique because we were the first or the last college to be able to go from NAIA to NCAA Division II without being penalized, which meant we could compete immediately in the conference that we went into.
And that was huge for you.
It was huge, yes.
Huge for you.
So I had an opportunity to be a conference champ in both divisions.
Nice. And set some records in the process, right?
Yeah.
Nice. That's excellent. In college, they don't really have a marathon distance. Right. Mm-hmm. And most college athletes, particularly when you think of track and field, you think of the shorter distances. What was it about the longer distance, or what was your conversion from a track and field guy to now this dominating endurance guy, this marathon runner, because that's such a different set of training even.
Yeah, to some degree. What I've learned was that I could train speed-wise pretty much for the mile to the marathon and not have to deviate too much because speed is speed.
Really?
Yeah. But things like tempo runs, long runs, that's where you would get your big differences. Well, I personally got my big differences from in terms of training because as opposed to running a 10-mile long run in preparation for a mile, I would need to run a 20-plus long run for a marathon. And so those were some of the striking differences that I found. But my transition from running the road races off of the track out of college came because you don't find many track and field races or races on the track outside of college.
Right. It kind of all goes away after that.
Right.
Like then you guys turned into 5K, 10K world.
Right. Because then I learned.
For soccer moms.
There you go. Well, then I learned after that, after college, there are all these races, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, just everywhere.
Yeah.
And me being
every weekend.
Exactly, every weekend. And me being very adventurous, I love to travel and they're everywhere. And I got an opportunity to use this thing that was naturally given to me to go out and explore. So and that I did just that. Because there was sort of a tragedy, and not really a tragedy, but the worst thing to happen to me in terms of running was that I smoked marijuana in college, and a lot of it. What's the big deal?
So, like, you ended up failing a drug test for NCAA?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Well, I ended up failing it for the school.
Gotcha.
The unique and crazy thing is that I was only 2 to 3 weeks outside of graduation.
Wow.
So I think they kind of had it in for me because the athletic director had already informed me that as soon as you graduate, you're going to be my next coach, which was my dream. So after failing that drug test, I could have ran from it, but I didn't want to run from it because I felt like this is a habit I need to kick because I can't take this into my professional life. And so I complied, took the test, failed it, of course, and it was as though I had lost my best friend. I could not attend a track meet without crying. I could not attend a cross-country meet without tears welling up in my eyes. And so from there, I said, well, that was 2003. I'm going to just turn my life into running, and taking care of my family. And so 2004, I actually became the South Carolina Long Distance Runner of the Year because I was just on my grind, running, training, and just fully focused at the time.
That's really interesting, man. Wow. So with that drug test, then you saw the coaching opportunity dry up from losing that?
Yeah, at that one institution it did because at that time, Benedict was my world.
Right.
And so what greater
so that
honor.
Kind of set you in a bit of a tailspin.
It did. It did. I'm at the banquet. I'm the team MVP, but I'm kind of like the star who's kind of fading because he smokes weed.
Yeah. And even back then it put a stigma too because it doesn't. You don't have the same mentality or education about marijuana in particular.
Right.
But being someone who advocates for that, that's really
right, because I can't say that it slowed me down, but it was illegal. I shouldn't have done it.
Well, and it was against the rules.
Right.
I
broke the rules.
Regardless of if it was a benefit or a hindrance, you got to comply with the
exactly.
You got to toe the line.
And so I felt as though if that's going to keep me from running, I don't want to do it again. If that's going to keep me from coaching, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, if it's going to keep you from achieving your goals, then it's a hindrance at that point.
And so since then, 2003, I haven't. But again, I just poured myself into running.
So tell me, so at that point when that's kind of a low point for you, how you dig yourself out of that hole? Where do you go from there? What's that
Right.
next step look like?
It was all about running. The more I improved at running, the more that I showed that, hey, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And I decided at the time to work with whomever might want to work with me in terms of wanting some coaching. And so from time to time, I would have one client here and there, or just run with a group of people here
Were
and
you
there.
actively marketing yourself as a coach, or people were just coming to you based on who you were and your
Actually,
knowledge?
me marketing myself as a coach started the day I started running collegiately, because I would run throughout the campus and throughout the community, and I was just
There you guys
moving
again.
billboard. Yeah. And so they coined me the running man around campus,
Nice,
and
awesome.
which was funny because here I am wearing these little short shorts with no shirt on during the summertime here in South Carolina, and guys on the football team are saying, "Hey, go running man," and others in the community, "Hey, go running man," and so
That's
that
cool.
was a real big compliment. It made me feel really, really good,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
to get that kind of attention.
yeah, for sure. So then, tell me about your transition into marathon. What was your first marathon?
So my very first marathon was the West Palm Beach Marathon in West Palm Beach, Florida, and it came the day after I ran a 5K. I ran the town center 5K in Jacksonville at a time of 15:02, and I drove straight from there to a
And
relative's
that's a haul,
house.
Jacksonville to
Yeah,
South
it's
Florida.
about a 4.5 hour drive, I believe. And so I got there, made it to the race early so I could take a nap in the car, and I ran that race and I ended up running 2:38. I placed third,
On your
and
first marathon.
in my first marathon, and I led the race up to 12 miles. But after 17, I asked myself, "What in the world are you doing?" Yeah, it was a different world. And so I asked the biker what place I'm in. She said, "You're in third. No one's close." And I thought, okay, well, I can finish because I'm going to finish and be able to make some money today.
Right.
And so that was my goal at the time. I just wanted to live that runner's life as
Yeah.
much as I could.
And the way to do that is to finish where you get a paycheck at the end of it. Yeah.
Exactly, right.
Well, let me ask you then, because for all of us regular humans, we have that wall that we hit with a marathon, and we all have that experience of where the wheels fall off and everything kind of shuts down. Gosh, did you even have time to have that experience, or did you just blow right through that?
No, I had that experience
So tell me-
at mile 17. When I asked that biker, "What mile is it? What place I'm in?"
Yeah.
I was hurting. I had never experienced that in my life. I was hurting so bad. I wanted to stop,
But you kept going.
But yes, knowing that I've come this far, not only in travel but in this race today, there's no way I can stop. There's
Well, yeah,
no way I
because you
can
can't
stop.
give up that one spot. As soon as you
Exactly.
give up that one spot, the
Right.
paycheck's gone.
Right.
Like that's
Exactly.
Then the whole trip, it changes
Yes.
the entire dynamic of the trip at
Right.
that point.
It would have been a long, sad ride home, but
It would
thankfully,
have been a long ride. home.
right. Thankfully,
That's
I placed third, and
That's amazing.
I've had those moments where the wall has been there, but for the most part, due to the training,
Yeah.
and thankfully I've been able to stay fit and healthy. The long runs, putting those in have really helped me, and I guess I would say racing smart.
Yeah.
You're not going out in over my head, has allowed me to finish quite a few.
Well, just understanding the concept of a negative split, I think, changes the dynamic for a lot of people. As soon as
Right.
you can kind of wrap your arms around that, I think that then you realize you got to have something in the tank. And then, of course, the nutrition aspect. I mean, that's a huge part of it, too.
Yeah.
Was it your natural ability as a runner that had people naturally kind of looking to you as a coach?
I think that's part of it. You could probably remember pointing out the smarter kids in class and saying, "I'm going to get that guy to help me with my homework because
Exactly.
he knows that subject."
Yeah.
And so when someone
gets
would
it.
see me, in what I was doing with running, naturally they would gravitate toward me to ask certain questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? And it felt good to be needed in such a way.
Looked at
And
as like an expert in the field kind of deal.
right,
Yeah,
right. And wanting to be an expert in the field later on because coaching was something that I always wanted to do.
that's
Um,
great.
and so that made it easy for me to kind of just transition into coaching.
Well, it's so neat. It's so much about. I just read this book that's called "So Good They Can't Ignore You" by what's his name, Cal Newport, and he talks about like so many people say, "Well, follow your passion and do what you love." And that sort of thing, but it's really he takes a different approach. It's more about like get good at it,
Right. Do
and
what you're
and
good
once you
at.
get really really good at something, then the opportunity to take that and turn that or to apply your passion with that level of expertise, that's where you get the real fulfillment. That's where you get that real sense of purpose and meaning with what you're doing. And it sounds like that's exactly
I
kind of
agree.
like what
I
happened
agree.
with you.
Yeah. I started to really study it, not just study myself, but other runners especially. And that's how I actually ended up. I was fortunate to be able to run cross country or to learn about other things because I would always become friends with those guys who were better than me. If you beat me, I'm going to get to
I
know
want to
you.
know you. Yeah, isn't that
And,
funny?
and yeah, because I don't want to be a rival or an enemy. I need to know what you know because
Yeah.
obviously you know something I don't. And so it's really, really afforded me a great opportunity to get to know some really good people, including former world record holders, Khalid Kanuchi, Paul Turgot, and so, and other Kenyans as well. And it's all because I want to be good at this thing, called running and coaching. And so it feels good for me to help others achieve their goals.
What's something that you learned from them that had a lasting impact on you? Those world class guys like that.
Be humble.
Really?
Yeah, be
Yeah.
humble. Never think you know it all.
Yeah.
I'm always open. I
And
learn a lot, even from Shawanna. I didn't come into coaching her knowing everything in order to help her to achieve the goals that she's achieved. Some of it came in trial and error,
yeah.
I didn't know to slow down more more often than not. And so when I started to do that, me myself, I started to feel a whole lot better, on days where I may have felt like crap because I'm taking it easy. I'm really able to enjoy it. So just being humble, understanding that there are others, every one of us have value. We can all learn from each other, even if that learning is learning what not to do.
Right, sure, absolutely. Yeah, we all have something to offer. So I'm real curious about the coaching aspect. In my own personal thing, trying to develop a program that's a personal development coaching platform, how you go about designing your programs, designing your workouts, designing what Shawanna is going to do for that matter. What's your process for that? Do you do it like, do you test stuff out on yourself first? Is it more of like a trial and error kind of thing like you're talking about? Or do you look to some of these Kenyans that you've gotten influenced by? Or tell me about that process.
I would say it's like a good ingredient. Some things you may be aware of already to make this thing the spiciest and the best that it can be. Then there are things that you learn as you go along the way from other people. And so I don't say that there's no one cookie cut way, I believe, to approach this thing. I think we have to be open minded, but also there are some common denominators that we can't leave out. There are some basic ingredients that we cannot leave out, or this bread won't rise.
Right. If there's no yeast in there,
Exactly.
it's not going to do. Yeah. That's
And
a great analogy.
I approach it with an open mind. Understand that we all start from different places. We all have different goals. And depending on what those goals are, that's kind of how I gear the training. But I also have to be realistic, and I encourage my athletes to be the same. Because we may want to run a time right now in 6 months that we may need to wait 2-3 years before we can do such a thing, because I'm looking at your experience,
Bigger picture.
other times, yes, the bigger picture. And so that's my approach.
Nice. You've been coaching for a while now. You've got to, and you've been exposed to a lot of different level of athletes, and you've had to cater specific programs for specific individuals. What is the biggest thing that has changed since you've started coaching that you've learned over time that you've tried to implement or teach your athletes? What's the biggest difference now compared to when you first started? Because like college level is like NCAA coaching. You think that is a certain thing, and like you're working towards sprinting, and like you're these young athletes that can bounce off walls versus like training somebody for a marathon as a 40-year-old. You know what I mean? Like that looks a little different. And
yeah, it does. So what I would say to that is lifestyles, because at the collegiate level, and even if you're running for a living, that may be all you're doing for the most part.
Right.
But when you have a life,
a 9 to 5,
life, yes, then that's a different look. I have to take all of that into consideration. I've coached folks in the past whereby I didn't clearly understood what they did for a living, for instance. So I've learned I've really got to know this person. I've got to know when they're on their feet, how often, what their diet is like. There's a lot of things that go into it if I really want to get the best out of this person, you know. And if they decide to change some of those things in terms of for improvement purposes, things that can change, then we're going to have a great relationship if they can do that. But I first have to recognize, and that I didn't understand at first. There was a guy I coached who worked for UPS. I was wondering, why is he not doing some of the runs that I really want him to do? I need him to do these runs. And then,
because he's putting in 6 miles on the job.
Exactly.
You realize.
And so we were only a few weeks out from the marathon, and I said, I don't understand. You have the talent. Why isn't this happening and that happening? And then he said, well, you got to understand, I'm on my feet, and I'm walking like 10 miles a day.
Yeah.
And a light bulb went off that, whoa.
Wait a minute. That changes everything.
A lot would have changed in his training plan had I known that.
Right.
I couldn't blame him. That was just a note to self. Aha.
Yeah. Aha moment for you, right?
This is what you need to do now. Yeah. So things like that, makes things different.
How are you gaining your knowledge? Where do you get your ongoing learning for coaching? How do you go about that?
Well, a lot of it is trial and error. All of what I would have my athletes do, I've done it myself. Mm-hmm. At some point, I've done it. I read, and Shawanna reads a ton, and listens to every podcast on the planet, anything dealing with running.
Yeah, we talked about that. She had a list of them.
Yeah. and so from those things I'll learn from. Some things I might learn by accident. I'm somewhat of a sponge. I want to be good at it, and therefore, because early on I was reading everything myself. The books on running by Jeff Galloway, everything that there was.
I'm trying to get him on the podcast. He lives up by me.
Cool.
He's a neat one, man.
Yeah.
Oh, so let me ask you. So bringing up the run walk method, coming from again that collegiate level mentality of training and of coaching, what are your thoughts on that run walk method and that more of that endurance based training program or training regimen?
Well, based on what I see, folks have completed marathons doing that. If that was their goal, it worked.
Yeah, it got the job done.
It got the job done.
Well, what I like so much about it, again, it's teaching you to kind of hold a little bit back and that consistency. So much about, and Phil talks about these running metaphors with life, and I think this is one that really holds true, is like that consistency. If you do just a little bit consistently over time, then like if you allow that to run its course, then the results you see from the long term are astounding compared to just, the here and now. I gotta have it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest pet peeves is be consistent. Be consistent. If right now being consistent means running 2 miles a day, be consistent at running 2 miles a day. Yeah. Just what you were saying. Yeah. And if you can do a little bit more in the long term, it will add up.
Well, that consistency will allow you to do the more later on. Like you run 2 miles every single day for 2 weeks. Guess what? After 2 weeks, you're going to be able to run more than 2 miles.
Right.
No matter which way you try to slice it, that's what's going to happen. So, you got a favorite book? One that last made an impact on you, maybe back in high school or when you were younger, anything like that? A book maybe that you've given away? Any book that you encourage your athletes to read?
I Train Hard, Win Easy. I'm not sure who wrote it, but it's about Kenyan runners. It could have been by, I think, a brother Coleman, who was one of the pioneers of coaching Kenyan runners. But it tells you a lot about the Kenyan way of life in terms of running. And so it's really a highlight of a lot of different runners, of the more prominent runners. And so I must have picked this book up around the year 2003. Not sure how old it was or is, but when I went through it and read it, man, these guys, some of the things that I saw that they were doing, and women, was just amazing. And so that was just a favorite because it really showed me the level of hard work that goes into running at the highest levels.
They're not just talented and gifted.
Yeah, you have to work at it. Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue into your coaching with the Kenyans. You've actually been able to not only learn some of their best practices, but you've been able to train some of them here in the States. Can you tell me about that program?
Well, actually training with them.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a better way to say it. Yeah, sure.
But one of the things that Shawanna and I have been able to do is we've been able to house and host a few runners every year to give them an opportunity to come run and experience America and whatever opportunities that might open up for them. And so it's been a great experience. For one, it's allowed me to train with them when I can. And
talk about training with some world-class athletes.
Exactly.
Up in your game. No wonder you're putting up these times.
Right. And I've been able to, of course, enjoy the foods that they cook as well.
The culture, all that. Added bonus for sure. And you guys have one, what was it, Harrison?
Right.
Living with you guys right now, right?
Harrison is with us now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he'll be with us, I think, for a couple more months.
Awesome. When you're not running and not coaching and all of this physical grind of racing over the weekends, how do you enjoy spending your downtime? Or what do you do when you're not going 100 miles an hour?
That's a very good question. I love sleep. I love to relax.
I was going to say, you guys have to be hitting it hard in the rest category.
Yeah, I mean,
as hard as you go.
Yeah, I'm full throttle. Sometimes I look back and wonder, man, how am I doing all that? But it goes to show if you just do it. Sometimes don't even think about it. Just do it. Just do it because it's got to be done. And most of the times it will get done. But when I'm not doing to do nothing, and what I love to do is just relax, just do nothing. Sit back, watch a movie.
As I said, do you like to, you social media guy, you into movies? How do you like to do your leisure stuff? Read?
I really love to listen to, I would read, but I fall asleep very easily.
That's my problem
when
too.
I read. Yeah,
You're so tired.
Yeah, I'm not
Glaze
reading.
over.
Yeah, I'm a counselor by profession, and so I'm typing and reading a lot already. But I love to listen to YouTube videos on intellectual, political topics sometimes. There's just so many things about life that fascinate me, belief systems, political systems, things like that. And so I love to learn about those things. And I am a psychologist / counselor by profession.
I was going to say, so tell us a little bit about the 9 to 5.
Well, human behavior.
On top of everything else.
Yeah, well, human behavior has always fascinated me, the way we think, the way we behave, emotions and things like that. And so, very interesting. I do work with the South Carolina Department of Mental Health, as a therapist, and
Cool.
it's one of those jobs that very rewarding, especially when you have the opportunity to work hard at helping someone. So it goes back to what my initial passion is, helping.
Yeah.
How I'm
Making
going
a
to
difference
help,
in somebody's life.
right. And it just so happens that professionally and academically, counseling is the vehicle for me to help people in, that dynamic. And outside of that, recreationally, coaching does it for me.
Yeah.
And so they're both very fulfilling. I learn from my patients, and I hope they learn from me. So,
You ever encourage any of your patients to run or go down that rabbit hole or anything
well,
like that?
I have encouraged quite a few
They get you in trouble at work?
to walk. Well,
Start converting all these runners?
no, that hasn't happened. But I even have patients who have told me they once run, and that's very interesting.
Yeah, like how did you go from being a runner to this spot in time kind of
Right.
thing? Yeah, that's interesting. All right, so you said when you're not running, you like to sleep. So do you consider yourself to be a night owl or an early bird?
Definitely a night owl.
Night owl, yeah.
I'm so much not an early bird.
Yeah.
I will get up because I have to get up.
Right.
And I can do that consistently. But if
If
given, the choice,
yeah.
the bed will have to make me get up because I can sleep.
I mean, I tell you, I mean, it's like I said, as hard as you guys are going, that doesn't surprise me at all because I think that recovery is such a huge part of exercise that gets
Yeah.
overlooked. And so you're a perfect example of why that recovery is so important. I mean, clearly it makes a huge difference for you.
Yeah, it does.
So being a coach in the field and we've seen a lot of really cool evolutions over the last, I would say maybe 10 years with pedometers and with some of the stride analysis and the advancements in the technology and the footwear and all that. What do you think is going to be the next big thing with running? Where do you think that this sport is going?
I can see something dealing with aerodynamics, something that will help us deal with the elements better, whether it's rain,
Interesting.
whether it's cold weather, whatever it might be, because I think that Nike and other companies now have tapped into what can help us somewhat defy gravity. Somewhat defy gravity. At least it's not pulling us or keeping us down as much as long.
Reducing resistance.
It's reducing it. And so I can see big advancements coming in other areas because everything is about getting faster.
Right. At the end of the day, it's all about
It's what will help us get faster. And they're willing, it seems, to put as much money into it as it will take for that to happen.
Well, they've got it.
I mean, it's exciting to see because I want to know. I want to see that, happen.
Be a part of it, right? Be a
Right.
part of that process.
Right.
Yeah. I think I'm always fascinated with that. So you think that technology is in shoes as well? Or do you think that's, because I was talking with Shawanna about the new Nike, I guess it was the Flylight that came out, and there's some controversy about that. What about the shoe aspect? What do you think's going to be coming with that?
Well.
Or what are your thoughts on that controversy for that
Well,
matter?
I don't want to be political about it, but money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, money rules.
Yeah.
And so
It's the big decision maker for sure.
that's the decision maker. And so if you have a multi-billion-dollar company saying we're going to do this, then most likely that's what's going to happen, regardless of who that governing body might be.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's exciting, but I would like to see more natural ability being promoted. But I'm still excited to see these inventions and tools that can help us achieve things too.
Well, I think the advancements in training in particular have really led to that optimization of the human body, that optimization of what we're capable of.
Right. I agree because you can put on anything, but at the end of the day, if you don't already have the gift to give it the gab, it's not going to go
If you hadn't put
anywhere.
in the work too, for that matter, it
Exactly.
doesn't matter how light
Right.
those shoes are, or what kind of drop they got. It's
Right.
like if you haven't put the work in.
Yeah, because undoubtedly Kipchoge and those guys, everyone else who's running the world class, elite times, breaking world records, they've put it in.
Yeah.
They put it in long before the shoes came along.
Right.
And so it's just that was an added bonus and extra. It could have been, I
The
would
shoe
say.
could be that one little last piece at the top that pushes you over
right,
the edge kind of thing.
right.
But it's certainly not going to be the
Right.
mainstay of what's going to
Right.
carry.
But at that level, though, because everyone is so close,
They're so close.
anything that can give you an edge is that much greater. Because Speedo wouldn't be in the position it's in if every swimmer could just go out and do what they do in anything.
Right.
So the equipment matters a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. For those little tiny, it's like, it's kind of, again, that metaphor for life. It's like the little details matter.
Yeah.
The little things make a difference, and it's really important that you pay attention to those little things and do the little things that are easy. And if you do all those little things, if you do take every little advancement that you can, then that's when it all can kind of come together for you. So being a coach and having been coached all through high school and collegiate level, you've heard lots of advice and been given lots of advice. What's some bad advice, or what's some of the worst advice that you've heard, or maybe advice that you hear now that just drives you crazy as a coach?
Oh, wow. Just the one, run hard every day. I've heard
Do
that.
people still say that?
Yes.
Do people still have that mentality? Well, I mean, I know still have that mentality, but
Right.
from a advice perspective, I would be surprised if people still thinking like that.
It's
So stupid.
It's amazing that a lot of coaches are coaching, at the collegiate level even. But you still get that.
Yeah. Well, and I've found that at the high school and lower levels, it's that you don't have good quality coaches. You don't have access to people like you that know what they're doing. A lot of these are even parent volunteers sometimes and again, they may be decent runners, but that doesn't mean they know what they're doing as far as trying to coach.
Yeah.
But anyway, what's your favorite item under $100 that you could not live without that you use in your everyday life?
Pen and paper.
What's your go-to
Pen
thing?
and paper.
Keep a pen and paper
Pen
with
and
you at all
paper
times.
because I like to write down my log. I like to write things down. I like to make lists because it feels good to write something down, cross it
Cross
out.
it off the list.
Yeah. So,
apparently you saw my pads here because that's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of to-do lists.
Yeah, all those things. That pen and paper.
Yeah, that's great. Now, let me ask you this. Being a left-handed person, I'm very particular about my pens because of the smudging and all that. Do you have a particular go-to pen or a go-to paper that you're
the big ballpoint pens are the best. Paper, I sort of like the printer paper, the plain white printer paper. Yeah.
So how do you track all of your data and all that? Do you do that old school style on pen and paper?
Yep,
and then do you take that data, then transfer it into spreadsheets, or you
No.
keep it all manual?
I keep it all manual.
Nice, old school.
Yeah.
Well, I find a lot of coaches still do that. A lot of the ones that are real hands-on. Obviously, in my world, there's a lot of virtual coaching, particularly in the triathlon world. So obviously, when you're doing that, then it's all computerized, and they actually have software now.
Because I'm old school with the coaching, although I do send training plans via Excel spreadsheet.
Right. Okay. So then you're creating.
It works, so I don't need to change it right now.
You can't live without some technology these days. I mean,
right.
Frankly, there's ways that technology can make you a more effective coach.
Yes.
But then it can also be, you can't rely on it too much as well. I like the old school style. I'm all about the pen and paper and all that kind of stuff. If you had a podcast, who would you like to interview?
Oh, wow. I would like to interview a wide variety of folks.
Anybody outside the running community? That'll make it a little more difficult for you.
Outside the running community?
Yeah.
I would have liked to interview Kobe Bryant, someone like that, But I have to say, if it were in the running community, one of the wheelchair athletes, I saw a guy making it. The other day, I was in Phoenix. I ran the Mesa Marathon. And while he struggled, I just kind of want to know, what's that like? I see people, with mental illnesses and disabilities, on a daily basis, but, not many athletes. I haven't had that opportunity or pleasure of just really sitting down and having a candid conversation with them. Because one of the analogies that I used to use as a runner was that when folks would complain about not performing as well as they should is, what would the man with no legs think? What would he say? And so I try to gain a better understanding of those things. Just put life in perspective.
That whole biblical, what is it? The guy who complains about not having any shoes until he meets the guy who has no feet.
Right.
That. Yeah, that's a great perspective. That's amazing. Any aha moments for you?
That I could run a lot, and I was encouraged to, in fact, run marathons, and not just run marathons, but run multiple marathons.
Who was it that guided you down that marathon path? Who encouraged you to do the first marathon?
I can remember Michael Wardian encouraging me that I could run a marathon, and then it was John Piggott out of Virginia who encouraged me to run multiple marathons because it's something that he's done. Since doing so and learning how to recover from those marathons, I've been able to run back-to-back marathons on a Saturday, Sunday. And
so not only have you done like 5K, 10K races on Saturday and then backed it up on Sunday with a half or a full marathon, you're saying you've done full marathons on both days?
Right.
Whoa.
Right.
How many marathons have you done?
At this point, I've run right at 81 marathons.
81
marathons. Right.
And those are all in this same kind of like time frame? Like that same speed?
Well, yeah, to some degree. I've run about 81, and all but 4 of those have been under 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, including these past 2 weekends. I ran Tallahassee at 2:53, and on Sunday, Saturday, This past Saturday, I ran the Mesa Marathon at 2:40.
Wow. So, I mean, you're like every weekend knocking out a marathon. No wonder you got to 81. That's crazy. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is a feat. So how many marathons do you anticipate running this year for 2020?
Probably going to end up with about 10.
Wow.
Yeah. Because there are so many other things in the in-between, because I really want to run a sub 425 mile. And so I know that I can.
So that's kind of one of the goals, or one of the primary areas of focus is going the opposite end, the shorter spectrum.
Exactly, because I love the speed.
Yeah.
And so I love it all. I love the fact that I can just, first of all, just do it. So
yeah.
I don't take it for granted. But because I feel I can, I would like to push that.
Push that envelope.
Yeah.
Wow, man, I can't even fathom. That's just, that's so outside of my comprehension. It's unbelievable. At the end of each episode, I want to give everybody a chance to plug sponsors, businesses, charities, any social media that you want to put out there. Let the world know who you are and what you do and how to find you.
Right.
Some of that stuff.
I am on Facebook, Orinthal Striggles, on Instagram at Coach O Striggles.
At Coach O?
Yes, at Coach O Striggles.
O Striggles, right.
Right.
I remembered it was a mouthful, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was written out as.
Right.
And you can see some of those amazing stats on your Instagram page. Like, definitely, it's worth taking the time to check that page out for sure.
Thank you.
Unless you want to be like me and just get depressed about how slow you are, if you don't mind that aspect.
No. Well, if you do get depressed, call me up. I'm a counselor and a coach. So
coach us up, man.
You get 2 in 1.
There you go. Absolutely. And what about sponsors, businesses, organizations? Anybody you want to plug?
Black Men Run, I would like to plug them there. We're just a group.
Yeah,
We're just a running organization who promotes a healthy brotherhood, through running.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We can all use some more of that. Excellent. Well, man, I really appreciate you taking the time today, and best of luck with this year, with all of your goals that you have and all the races that you guys will be doing, and with the coaching as well, man. Really excited to see that continue to grow, and next thing you know, you'll be out there representing some Olympians, man. You never know.
Right. If anybody's looking for coaching services, they can always message me at coachostriggles@yahoo.com.
There you go. Best place to be. All right, man. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
All right, see ya. Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening. So what'd you think? What did I miss? Anything that you wanted to hear that I didn't cover? What do you want to know more about? Who would you like to see on the show? Hit us up on social media and tell me what you think. Check us out on iTunes and please leave a review. We're now on Patreon, and your support there helps let us know we're headed in the right direction. We have a lot of exciting new things coming, fascinating guests, and some of the craziest stories you won't believe. So stay in the loop and check out more great content by subscribing at our website, 8keystoGreat.com. Special thanks to my guests and all those of you living an extraordinary life. This is Nate G. We'll see you next week.